Welcome back. Today we are here with Yanks again. If you guys missed our introduction to Phyrexia All Will Be One or our white set review, go ahead and check those out. They're already up on the YouTube channel. And today we're going to be doing all the blue cards, rating them 1 to 5, based on their performance in the average limited deck. Welcome back, Yanks.
Good to be here. Good to be ready to talk for, 3 or 4 hours about the best color in Magic.
Nope. We're going to try to keep this one short. White was a little long. So let's go ahead and jump right in to our first blue card. We have the Aspirant's Ascendant, 1 mana for an instant. Until end of turn, target creature gets +1/+3, gains flying, and Toxic 1. So kind of neat. I like that this is giving it some bigger booty, giving it like a leap mechanic. You can get in some lethal damage here. Toxic will help you if you're playing like the Azorius color, because you can help trigger some of the corrupted mechanics. It's kind of a flexible card. It's not untapping, but I like it.
Yeah, I think the Toxic 1 is not amazing here because a one-time Toxic 1 isn't great. However, what it can do is give something that already has Toxic flying and add an extra one to it, which is nice. And it is going to be good to get that first counter on it in the blue-green Proliferate deck.
Yeah, get it. Yeah, absolutely. You might just be able to go coast to coast on Proliferate if you're in like this color and something else that isn't toxic. But I was more looking at it as just like one piece of small things, right? So like 1 power is really not a ton to get over a bunch of lethal. 3 butt is good for blocking in combat.
Yeah.
Flying is good for, finishing lethal or surprise jumping on a creature. Toxic can be good for corrupted, or if you're playing Simic, or if you're playing whatever. So like, none of the parts of this seem super strong. It's just very, very versatile. And I agree, Toxic might not be good, but sometimes, the 3 butt isn't good either if it's a finishing blow kind of deal. So it's just the fact that it does everything, it will likely come in handy.
Agreed. My main reason for saying that is I think, at least in my mind, Poison and Pump are kind of intricately linked because what we've had for so long is Infect. And that's just
Correct.
not the way this works.
Yes, that is definitely not the way it's going to work. This is either going to go hand in hand with your Simic deck, hand in hand with your Proliferate decks, or with your Corrupt decks where you're not really trying to go coast to coast with Toxic. You're just trying to get those first 3 triggers in, and you're going to call it a day.
Agreed.
That said, it's also 1 mana, so I'm pretty happy with this card. I feel like this is a decent one of playable. It's kind of easy to cut, but because it's so flexible, I feel like I'll play it quite often. It's like a 2/5 that's probably going to get cut a lot.
Yeah, I debated between that or a 2 that's going to be played more, so you're kind of right in that same ballpark.
Exactly. That's 100% where I'm at, too. All right. We have Atmosphere Surgeon, 2 mana for a 2/1 Phyrexian wizard that says you may cast non-creature spells. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put an oil counter on the Surgeon. You can remove an oil counter from it, and target creature gains flying until end of turn. Activate only as a sorcery. Wow. And you can do this multiple times per turn, so this really like builds up and allows you to just sort of like pop up everything and just get in for a ton of damage. I like this card a lot, actually.
Yeah, this is going to be one of your payoff cards for that Is It oil counter sort of spells deck. Because it cares about not just having an oil counter or a number of creatures having one. It wants as many oil counters as you can get.
And the nice thing is that you don't really need oil synergies for this card to be good. You don't need cards that create oil synergy for this to be good. This is just kind of good in any deck. I can see this being very good in like a Simic Proliferate deck where you are making a couple of oil counters, proliferating, and then just popping up all your big green beasts and getting over for some big damage. I feel like this goes in just about every deck.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely going to be see play everywhere. Even just the one-time flying boost is probably worth the card since it's a 2/1 base.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a little below rate, but I feel like, it'll be pretty easy to get a oil counter to make this worth it. And I don't think it's out of the realm of any deck getting 2 or 3 oil counters over the length of a game. And then it trades for, some sort of 2 or 3 drop. Call it good. Rating wise, I like this fair amount. I think this is a 2/5. I would probably play this in just about anything.
Yeah, this is a 2/5 that's going to play up in certain decks.
Absolutely. All right, Blade of Shared Souls, 2 mana for an equipment for Mirrodin. Creates a 2/2 when it comes into play, and you can equip it for free. When Blade of Shared Souls becomes attached to a creature. For as long as Blade remains attached to it, you may have that creature become a copy of another target creature you control. Wow, this seems very good for 3 mana. You just get to make a copy of it's a clone for 3 mana, right?
Yeah, it's a 3 mana clone restricted to your side of the board.
Yeah. And then it turns all your Mirrodin poopers into like whatever your best thing is, which is cool.
Yeah, or your mites, even weaker things than that.
That Mirrodin pooper, that's what I meant.
Oh, I thought you meant the one that came out of the 4 Mirrodin.
No, I just meant that's probably why that word was in my head, but I was thinking the little 1/1 poopers.
Yes.
Yeah, so this seems good. It's a rare. It's a little less shiny than I'd like to see for rares a lot of times, but I think this is fine. This is never getting cut. Probably a 3/5 in any deck where you have like load the ground stuff that like will benefit from a nice boost for copying something.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a weird deck where this is best, where you have both the load of the ground stuff and the big things that you want to copy. It's still going to be good if you could just turn your 1/1s into 3/3s, but it gets its best value if you can make them bigger or bigger and better.
Yeah, I feel like the payoff for like Azorius is, however many artifacts you have, it gets attack power for that, and it's like flying. So copying something like that could be quite good. So you have all these low to the ground little things, but you're copying your big payoffs. Rating wise, what are you thinking on that? I think it's like a 3.
I think it is a 3/5. The equip cost is really cheap.
Yeah. I'm just a little low on it because you have to have the creature worth copying and creatures that are low enough to copy.
Yeah, the fact that it provides that first body itself.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's the difference for me. Plus the artifact synergies in blue-white.
All right, about a half point off. Blue Sun's Twilight, X blue for a sorcery. Gain control of target creature with mana value X or less. If X is 5 or more, create a token that's a copy of that creature as well. So, wow, 7 mana, you get to steal your best thing, make a copy of it. That seems pretty good, but also you can just, 5 mana, steal your 3 thing. Seems pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, this is barring some sort of counterspell, hexproof, something like that, this is a guaranteed 2-for-1 that's a lot of times a 3-for-1.
Yeah.
Like, it's not the most efficient until you get to 5, because 7 mana for 2 5-drops is pretty great.
Yeah, it's always interesting. When you steal a thing, it's better than just straight up removal, which is a 1-for-1. You're right, that's a 2-for-1, which is like fantastic. And getting to double it is just absolutely bananas. I like this card a lot. I feel like this is definitely game winning. If you're casting it for 5, it's game ending. And if you're casting it for anything else, it's still like very, very good.
Agreed. Yeah, I think this card's a 4. Maybe even better than that, but I think it's a 4.
I agree with that. I feel like it's a 4, and then we'll see how long the games go. If the games are consistently going long and you're getting to 7 quite frequently in most games, then I can see this just being a 4.5, a 5, game ending.
Yeah, also just note that you can, like, if you're playing, say, against an aggressive Boros deck and it's still, you manage to get to the late game, but they don't have anything big, you can play this for 7 and take something smaller just to get 2 things.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Bring the Ending. We have a 2-mana instant counter target spell unless its controller plays 2. Corrupt. And you can counter it instead if the controller has 3 or more poison counters. So it's just like kind of a cheap cancel if you have Corrupted, and then it's, unless they pay 2, which I don't usually like unless they pay 2, so I would need a deck that would be able to corrupt quite consistently for me to want to play this. I usually only start liking things unless it's like pay 3 or more.
I generally agree, but I like the design on this, and that when this card is getting weaker later in the game is when you're more likely to be able to get the bonus.
Yeah, I feel like, but not every color pairing is going to be able to get that bonus very well. Because like blue itself doesn't, I don't think, have a ton of toxic, right? That's kind of in the white, green, black.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, it's a combat trick gave toxic, so that to me indicates there might be more than we think.
That's absolutely true. Yeah, I think I'm a little higher on this if blue can support itself with Corrupted. At least a little. Like, and then you can pair it with just about anything. But my understanding was Corrupted was not in this color pairing quite as much, or this color. So I'm going to kind of hold out on this. I'm going to say I'm not interested in playing it and call it a 1.5 for me. But if we see a handful of blue spells that we like, to pair with a handful in another color, then I'm happy to come up on this.
Yeah, I think that's a fine rating. It's just got a higher upside than most 1.5s.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that. And there's going to be some decks, if you're in Simic and your creatures all have Toxic, then great. This goes way up, in my opinion. 2 mana counter target spell. It doesn't say creature, it doesn't say non-creature. Like, that's actually pretty decent. Chrome Prowler, 3 mana for a Phyrexian cat. Hey, there's another cat, so there's 3 cats.
Oh, yeah. I missed that one. I think I skipped over blue because I mostly just looked in like red and green for cats. After white.
Blue sometimes has them because it has that cute tentacle one, right?
That's true.
Phyrexian cat with flash, 3/2 for 3 mana. When it enters the battlefield, tap another target creature an opponent controls. Okay, I'm okay with this. Surprise blocker, taps down their blockers, surprise attack. It does a lot of stuff, and it's just fine on curve. This seems solid.
Yeah, 3 mana, 3/2s with flash and something are always good. It's an artifact, which is good for blue-white, or, hey, if you have the Cat Lord.
Yeah, it's also an artifact, yeah.
It's also a cat.
Rating-wise, probably a 2.
Yeah, I think it's a 2.
In most sets, this feels like a 2/5, but we're just getting to the point where everything is good now, so we've got to rate something lower.
If there's a blue deck that seems like super tempo-y, then this will get better in that deck, but we don't quite know that yet.
Yeah. I'm used to things that get played and make them not untap on their untap step. Now that doesn't have flash. This kind of works out roughly the same, but
yeah, you can get a similar amount of combat steps.
All right. Distorted Curiosity, 3 mana for a sorcery. Corrupted. This spell costs 2 less if the opponent has them, and you draw 2 cards. So it's just divination with some upside. If you have Corrupted, I'm playing this in any deck. And if you can get Corrupted with some consistency, it becomes outrageously good.
Yeah, I mean, Corrupted was already playable in almost every format and limited format, and this is just strictly significantly better.
Yeah, divination, absolutely. So on its own, this is a 3. I want one in every deck. And if you are Corrupted pairing, then I'll run 2 of these easy. 2, 3.
I mean, if I really think I can get Corrupted that easily, I might run 5 of these.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because, oh no, I played 1 to draw 2. Darn, I drew another one. I'll draw 2 more.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, if you're corrupting reasonably well. I mean, honestly, in most decks, I'm happy to run 2 divinations, to be honest. So realistically, the ceiling on this is just through the roof. It's really, really high.
Yeah, you definitely want to pair this if you can in a deck with a decent number of 2-drops. Because if you run the draw and all, you can't. This is your turn 3 play. It feels pretty bad.
Yeah, agreed. I'll let you take this one.
Encroaching Mycosynth. 3 and a blue for an artifact. Non-land permanents you control are artifacts in addition to their other types. The same is true for permanent spells you control and non-land permanent cards you own that aren't on the battlefield.
Seems not limited.
No. Maybe there's some blue-white deck that has enough artifact payoffs that this is worth it, but I doubt it.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to find for sure. So I'm just going to rate this a 1, and I mean, there might be some sort of Azorius thing, but for the most part, we're looking at this for constructed.
Yeah, this is just trying to fuel miserable card locks and things like that.
Yeah. Escaped Experiment, 2 mana for a 2/1 Phyrexian Beast. When it attacks, target creature and opponent control gets -X/-0 till end of turn, where X is the number of artifacts you control. It's kind of a nice little tempo payoff. I've seen things like this before where you're curving out with your artifacts and then they're sort of piling on themselves and making their creatures not block and doing a bunch of stuff, and you just kind of tempo them out all along the way. So I can see this being very, very good in the Azorius deck.
Yeah, my only concern with this is I feel like it just dies so easily. Like even giving something -X -O, it's only got to keep 1 power, and this has to attack to get the trigger.
Yeah, so I mean, it's good if your opponent is tall, not wide. It's going to die to mites and things like that, obviously. So you're looking to be the aggressor, and you're looking to be the go wide deck here. And if your opponent has a bunch of little boobies, then we're not happy to be having this.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right. Rating wise,
I've got this at probably like a 1/5.
someone in chat makes a good point. Mites can't block. That's
Yeah,
true, but like the little shitter principle still sort of applies. But you're right. Mites specifically cannot do the thing. But we also saw like 1/4s and I mean, hell, 1/3s are looking great. We've seen a bunch of 2/1s. So the few 1/3s that'll be in the set will be really good here.
yeah. I think I've got this as a 1/5 that'll because I think it's really only good in one deck.
Absolutely, yeah. And even then, I still don't think it's fantastic. It's more of an enable
Exactly.
for your other things. So I'm gonna give it a 2. I'm a little higher on it just because I think it just has enough synergies to do what it wants to. Experimental Augury, 2 mana for an instant. Look at the top 3 cards. Put one of them into your hand and the rest onto the bottom. Proliferate as a bonus. So I tend to kind of pass these up a lot just because, they're basically kind of cycle plus, which is decent. They're always playable, if you're a little light, but I tend to just make them. They just seem to be very easy cuts for me as well when I'm struggling. But the fact that this has Proliferate stapled on is going to be great with the synergies of this set. So I think I'm a lot more interested than normal.
Yeah, it's like, what do we have to put on a card to make Anticipate good and limited? Let's try just adding a keyword.
Yep. And Proliferate is a pretty solid keyword.
Yeah.
2?
Yeah, I think it's 2.
2, and then obviously the more your deck wants to proliferate, you've got some upside here that you'll be happy to add more than one of these in your deck if you have those. Especially if you have some of them sweet rare only planeswalkers. Yeesh.
Yeah.
All right, the Eye of Malkator.
So your guess is as good as mine on that one.
3 mana for an artifact. When it enters the battlefield, scry 2. When another artifact enters the battlefield under your control, Eye of whatever becomes a 4/4 Eye until end of turn. I mean, 3 mana for a 4/4 that, when you're the aggressor and it feels like this artifact deck does want to be the aggressor is pretty solid, but you have to have a really high quantity of artifacts for that to be true. And the scry is also like a really nice bonus here. If you're getting to consistently attack with a 4/4, then you get to scry when it comes into play. It's a pretty great curve.
Yeah, I like the fact too that we've seen at least one card in white that can put artifacts in at instant speed. With instant speed mites, so that helps. Yeah, you need it's another one of these cards. You need the critical mass, but if you have it, it's very good.
Yeah, I agree. So rating wise, this seems very split. I hate giving split ratings for like commons, but this is very much the case. I think this is going to be a good card. This, what this feels like to me? It feels kind of like the Serpent, not as good, but the one that comes in for cheaper for spells in graveyards.
Oh yeah.
I don't remember. It was kind of recent, but like that thing was just an absolute house in the one deck, and then outside of that, you're just like
Something Kraken.
yeah, you're just not really looking to play that. So split rating probably like a 1 and let's say a 2/5.
Yeah.
I mean, in the artifact deck, I will want 4 of these.
Yeah, it's probably like a 1/3 because it is going to be very good in that one deck.
Yeah,
And if we're giving it a split rating, we can assume that it's in the right deck for the high end.
absolutely. Front of Progress, 1 mana for an artifact. When it enters the battlefield, put with 2 counters on it. You can pay 3, tap, target player mills X cards where X is the number of oil counters on it. So it comes into play, it's just a millstone-ish to start. Less to play, a little more to activate. But then it just ramps up as you get more oil counters through either things that add oil counters or through Proliferate. I am excited to mill people out with this. I mean, I don't think it's particularly great, but like I'm definitely going to be playing it.
Yeah, I can see why you would want to play it. The card's just bad, but it's
Yeah,
fun.
exactly. And you just like want to pull it. If you proliferate twice and you're just like milling for 4 turns, that's so many. That's so much.
Yeah, the 3 per turn means you're probably not doing anything else in those turns, which means you're just probably going to die before you mill them out.
I mean, after you've proliferated 2 or 3 times, I feel like I have plenty of mana.
Yeah, but it depends, I guess. What we'll have to see, like, are you proliferating on top of a body, or are you playing experimental auguries? Like, you just might be dead.
Yeah, I'm assuming it's coming stapled onto other stuff like my removal. Like we saw the black removal
Sure.
spell that has proliferate on it. Like I'm not just running shit proliferate spells for the fun of it, but like a deck that synergizes well with doing that, and you kind of just have this, and then you just boop boop kill them. I'm in.
Yeah, I feel like a card that requires you to do some work and have the right deck, and then you get like a 6-turn clock for 3 mana a turn doesn't seem that good.
It's 6-turn clock. That's gonna be a lot shorter than that.
Like four cards per turn.
Yeah, when you're halfway
Okay.
through the deck, because I mean, it doesn't.
I mean,
by the
that's
time you start
okay.
doing that,
Sorry. Okay, 5-turn clock.
yeah, I'm in.
So I'm paying 16 mana for a 5-turn clock after I've done extra work. That doesn't
Yeah.
seem very good.
It's not.
Okay, good.
You don't understand. Milling
I know you
people.
I know you just
equals
want a cookie.
cookies.
I know you just want cookies.
Yes, I just want the cookies, Yanks. Just let me have fun and mill people out, okay?
I said it was fun. I just said it was bad.
And I also said it was bad, but
Okay,
I'm gonna
good.
play it anyway. Just let me have it. This is gonna be a 1 and a 4.5 in fun.
It's a 1/fun.
It's a 1/cookie. So, if you guys are new here, or if you're on YouTube and you don't watch the live show, whenever I do something really cool and limited that like is not super common, like mill people out with like a non-mill set, just with 1 card, I get to have a crumble cookie. So this will be how I activate most of my crumble cookies for the next 2 months. So yeah. All right, I'll let you take this one.
Gitaxian Anatomist. 3 and a blue for a 2/5 Phyrexian wizard. When it enters the battlefield, you may tap it. If you do, proliferate.
Okay,
That's
so
fine.
a 2/5 that ETB's tapped for a proliferate. That seems fine.
Yeah. It's the fact that it's a May is great because it means you can just not proliferate if you're playing against some sort of aggro deck that you've got to stabilize.
Or if you don't need it.
Yeah, or if there's no benefit to it.
See? So exactly. So
pretty
we play
low
that
impact.
This is proliferating our mill. For free.
Yeah, and then while it's tapped, I'm beating you in the face.
No, because I played other things, Yanks. Sheesh. And you're not beating me in the face because your decks have no creatures. Ha!
I have one flyer. Also, I'm just quenching this thing or whatever the 2-mana counter was.
No. You can't have it both ways, Yanks. Rating wise, I think this is fine. It's probably just a 2 though. Unless you
Yeah,
and with some upside for proliferate decks.
Agreed.
All right. Gitaxian Raptor, 3 mana for a 1/4 flying. When it enters a battlefield with 3 oil counters, remove an oil counter. It gets +1, -1 till end of turn. I mean, it's kind of, you see these sort of like mana sinks that do the same ability, but you can do it forever. This is nice because the first 3 times are free, but I'm still really kind of not interested in doing that unless I have ways to like replenish my oil counters.
I agree with that, but I'm also just kind of in for the 3-mana 1/4 flyer, especially with all the X ones we're seeing.
I agree. I'm just not rating it highly.
No,
This feels like a 2/5.
Yep, I like that.
Glistener Seer, 1 mana for an 0/3 Phyrexian Advisor. When it enters the battlefield with 3 oil counters on it, you can tap, remove a counter, scry 1. No?
Yeah, like if you just don't have 2s and you just need a body, it's not the worst, but I mean, where's like our starfish and stuff where we can just keep scrying?
Yeah, exactly. Where's my starfish? I loved the starfish. It was so cute.
Card was great.
Yeah, if you have a lot of Proliferate in your deck, cool, but like this can't attack, this can't really do much. This is like a sideboard card against more aggressive might decks, I think.
Yeah. Or just even aggressive Boros in general, but yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna rate this kind of meh. It's like a 1.5.
Yeah, it's like a 1.5 or even a sideboard card.
Yeah, I mean most 1.5s for me are. It's like
Sure.
you can play it at like most sideboard 1.5s are like I don't have enough playables, or also this just could be useful if like it's against the right thing specifically.
Yep.
Ichor Synthesizer, 2 mana for a 1/3. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put an oil counter on it. As long as it has 4 or more, it gets +2/+0 and can't be blocked. Wow, I like this. This seems great for a 2-drop.
It feels so much worse than that one we had in the last set that was like unblockable immediately. Granted, that was a mythic.
Yes, that was a mythic. Yeah, this is a common 2-drop. It's a 1/3. It's going to stop all those pesky 2/1s that we've been seeing. There's a lot.
Agreed.
It's going to stop the mites. It's going to do a lot of things. And then eventually it's just going to become a 3/3 beater that, like, they cannot block, which seems pretty good.
Yeah, this is going to be good in blue-green. This is going to be good in blue-red. It's a finisher in sort of the black-blue controlling deck.
Yeah.
This is just kind of a good all-around 2-drop for what blue generally wants to be doing, especially it seems like it wants to do in this set.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is like a 2/5 with some upside if you've got a good amount of spells.
Agreed.
Playable in anything, great in spells decks. Ichor Moon Gauntlet, 3 mana for an artifact. Planeswalkers you control have pay 0, Proliferate, and -12, take an extra turn after this one. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, choose a counter on target permanent, put an additional counter of the same kind. Constructed, I'm not super excited about this. You have to cast non-creature spells and or have planeswalkers. No thanks.
Yeah, you cast non-creature spells and you get a counter. It's not like it's whenever you cast a non-creature spell, Proliferate. That still probably wouldn't be played, but it would be a lot better.
Yeah, it's a nice thing for a bonus. So this feels like some sort of like Super Friends type deck, cool thing, which yeah, I'm not super into. So this is just going to be a 1 for limited, which is our lowest score.
Yep.
All right, we've got Jace, the Perfected Mind. 2 blue and a Phyrexian blue. It comes into play possibly with 5 or 3 loyalty if it's completed. Check out our introduction to go over both of those things. +1 until end of your next turn, up to 1 target creature gets -3/-0. Target player mills 3 cards. See? I'm gonna mill them. Then, if the graveyard has 20 or more cards in it, you may draw 3 cards. Otherwise, you draw a card. Target player mills 3 times X cards. Huh. So I could just see just playing this for 4 and milling them for 15 and just killing somebody.
Yes, that is definitely possible late in the game.
In the later game, this is going to be mill 15.
Yeah. I was looking at this card earlier, and I was trying to figure out how to rate it. And it reminded me a lot of, I don't know if you remember Jace Architect of Thought.
I mean, they all blur together. I don't know which is which anymore.
It was Return to Ravnica. It was another 4 mana one. And its +1 was it gave all creatures that attack to you -1/-0. This gives one thing -3/-0. It had a -2 that lets you draw like mini Fact or Fiction, draw 1 or 2 cards, and had an ultimate that won the game. Now, granted, you had to tick up for that ultimate. So I don't know. And that card was great. This one doesn't feel quite as good until you get to that point where you can just kill somebody by milling them out, but it's still very good.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of protects itself, and then it -2 to mill them draw seems fine. It's protecting itself a little bit with the +1. I don't like it. I don't think this is particularly powerful early, it just kind of chunks up the board and makes them spend a bunch of resources to kill it. And then it's a pretty fantastic late draw, which is really cool. I think this is like it's like a 3. I think it's like a 3.
I'm torn because I think also if you think about it, right, it's comes in with 5, so you put it on 4, and maybe if they only have one real threat, and then
It gets better.
You take it up to 6. Now it's mill 18.
Yeah.
And then it's mill 21.
That's assuming they have one creature. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, or they have
things
2,
have to go right.
I mean, it's not an unreasonable scenario. They have one creature, or they have 2 and you have 1, and you can block 1. Like, I'm not talking magical Christmas land here. This is pretty reasonable board state for turn 4.
I agree, but it doesn't do a lot when it comes down.
I mean, it can also just come down and draw 2 cards, right? Draw a card again. And
assuming that they can't get in a little chip damage, yeah.
Okay, then it's draw a card, and it's made them into not necessarily a great attack, or I think you're looking at pretty much a guaranteed 2-for-1 at best, at worst.
Yeah.
So yeah, is it the for the stupid Elspeth we saw or whatever?
Yeah.
No, but it's very good.
I think it's very good if it sticks. And, then I'm averaging those 2 things together to get like a 3/3/5.
Yeah, I think I've got this at like a 4/5.
A 4/5? Wow.
I think it's a 4, really, but the fact that in a decent percentage of games, it can just come down and the game ends. Like, instantly with nothing they can do about it on the mill.
Yeah, sometimes.
Gives it a little bit of a bump for me.
So that's, again, where we're kind of like splitting because of the fact that I think the format's faster than that. I think the games are going to be over before we get to 15 cards in our deck.
Maybe I'm just being hopeful, because if the format's is as fast as you think it might be, I'm going to hate the format. So maybe I'm just being hopeful.
Yeah, so maybe, again, this will be one of the things where it's just going to completely come down to how quick is the format. Because, don't get me wrong, I am the most excited to have this come down for 4 mana and mill someone for 15, especially when I've already been milling him with my other artifact, right? Like, that's fine. That's happening. But yeah, I don't think that this is doing quite enough. And with all of the mites and the go wides, there seems to be a lot of creatures and a lot of stuff in this set. So I'm gonna err on the side of this is just one of the weaker planeswalkers. But that's because it's a split rating. I'm sure we'll be talking about it in our update video in a few weeks.
Yep. Yeah. Well, if we get to play with it, it's a mythic.
Well, we'll find out if we're losing to it, certainly.
That's true.
Malcator's Watcher? Malcator's Watcher. 2 mana for a 1/1 flying vigilance. When it dies, draw a card. It's an artifact. So I guess if I want artifacts, great. 2 mana, 1/1. I guess flying and vigilant, so it can attack and chip away, and then eventually just block the 2 1s or whatever.
We played the dog, right? That died and drew a card that was on the ground for 2 mana.
You're talking about the one that ETB'd and drew a card?
Did that ETB? There was one recently that died and that did the same thing. Maybe I'm just got that backwards.
The dog from Kamigawa, the good boy?
Yeah.
That was draw on ETB, friend. And okay. I think enchantments in that are probably better than artifacts in this, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, that is ETB. Yeah, but this also has flying and vigilance.
True.
So I was thinking if that was the same, then those kind of would balance out. But you're right, that was enters, not dies.
I liked Good Boy better. This one is still fine. I still think it's like a 2. It's going to be played. It's going to have a fair amount of synergies. But I don't like it as much.
Yeah, a little higher, I think. I think I like this at a 2/5.
All right, close. Meldweb Curator, 4 mana for a 3/4 Phyrexian wizard. When it enters the battlefield, you may put up to 1 target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard on top of your library. Oh, I like that. I like getting to bring back my premium removal spells.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with that. It's not quite draw a card, but it's tutor something to the top of your deck potentially. Yeah, I like it.
tutor, the best thing that you want to be tutoring or
Best-
whatever's.
Yeah, the best of what you've
Now you
already
have to have
played.
like you have to have like 3 or 4 spells, instants or sorceries worth getting back in order for this thing to be consistent in any way. So it's probably still just like a 2, but in a heavy spells deck with some good things, like those decks where you just like happen to get 4 removal spells, I think this will go up in value and have quite a bonus.
So let's say your target is divination without the bonus. Are you happy with that or not?
Late in the game, probably, absolutely.
Yeah, because that feels like a pretty, divination, if you can't have the bonus, feels like a pretty average limited spell.
Yeah. If
So
it's
I'm
late in
going to
the
be
game, you're basically drawing an extra card.
yeah, so if I'm happy with that, then yeah, I'm pretty happy with this card.
Yeah. But if that's the best thing your deck can be doing, I'm probably not all that
Sure.
happy.
Agreed. Yeah.
So that's why I was saying
think
I want to have like at least 3 premium things in the deck. Yeah, you still might miss those, or you might just want the divination instead. But I'd like to have the options to get some stuff.
yeah, I'm thinking broadly, right? If that's the overall average case that's what you're getting,
Yeah.
then I'm okay with this card. It's not that
absolutely.
much below, right?
Yeah, so I think it's like a 2, and then in the deck that has some good spells, I'm rating it a 2/5.
Yeah, well, that's fine.
Meld Web Strider, 5 mana for a 5/5 with Vigilance. Enters the battlefield with an oil counter. Remove an oil counter from it. It becomes an artifact creature until end of turn. Crew 3. Crew 3 is not bad. And you can just enters the battlefield with an oil counter, so you can crew it once for free. It's a 5/5 with Vigilance for 5 mana. This seems pretty good. It's like fine for a common.
Yeah, I think the card's fine. Again, this is going to probably be one of those that depends a lot on, like you said, how fast the format is. This is a relatively slow format, having a 5/5 you can attack with every turn and keep back to block. On a smaller board, good, but otherwise, kind of whatever.
Yeah, I mean, every deck's going to need a couple of 4-drops. If you've got a couple of Proliferate in your triggers in your deck, then this kind of just has a little upside and just turns your little poopies into attackers, which is kind of nice. Like if you have 2 3/2s, you just attack with one, block with the other, just kind of keep them bouncing back and forth. You need to have a high creature count. Proliferate helps. Nothing spectacular, but I'm certainly going to play this a fair amount. It's probably
Yeah.
solid 2.
Yeah, the tricky thing with some of these cards in Proliferate, right, is you have to proliferate before you're forced to use the counter.
Yeah.
Right, because you only got one shot at that.
Yeah, unless you have cards that are putting more oil counters on it.
Yeah, if we find that, then that changes things.
Yeah. But for the most part, I think I'm also like happy to play around those things reasonably well. Like I'll crew this time while I can, save that oil counter for when I really need it on the blocks. And then so that's the other thing. It's like threat of activation, right? So you tap your creature to crew to attack, and then they can't attack back because you have the oil counter. Does that make sense? And so you just kind of keep it going, and then you can save it for when you do have the Proliferate triggers.
Yeah. I mean, I guess there's also the logic of I might be okay with losing something to take away this oil counter against a Proliferate deck because you basically removed a creature for your creature, whether it be this one or whatever you would have to crew.
Yeah, and if that's the case, if you're just running your thing into my thing, I think I'm okay with then not having the Proliferate trigger here. So I think it's a fine card. It's probably like a 2 that I won't cut that often, so probably a 2/5.
Yeah, I think it can be a 2/5 because there are enough scenarios with upside, but I can definitely see cutting this in a decent amount of decks.
Yeah, there's going to be enough decks that just simply don't have enough creatures, right? It has the same downside as every vehicle. You're right.
Sure.
There's some decks that just don't want vehicles, but anytime you're looking at this card, I think it's a fine one.
Yep.
Mercurial Spelldancer, 2 mana for a 2/1. It can't be blocked. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put an oil counter on it. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may remove an oil counter from it. If you do, when you cast your next instant or sorcery, copy that spell, choose new targets. This card's stupid. I mean, it has to live, but if it does, yay.
Yeah. And it should live because it can't be blocked at least, so you're also getting free damage in, which does make it even more of a removal target, but Again, if you're generally happy if they're spelling it on or spending the removal on a 2-drop.
Yeah. I mean, I think this card is going to win games if you leave it to do its thing, which makes me want to just give it a 4.
I mean, I think this is the same as a couple cards ago where you've got to have the spells to make it worth it. So I don't know if I can just give it a blanket 4. And you got to have a lot of spells.
It's also just a 2-drop that can't be blocked at 2 power. Like, you just put them on a clock.
Yeah.
And you only need 1 spell to, like, that. You know, I mean, you only need 2 spells for this card to get insanely good value.
Well, you need 3 spells because you got to get the 2 counters, and then you have to.
Oh, is it 2 counters? You only have 2. I thought it was only 1 oil counter,
No,
but
2
still.
counters.
And then when you do it, it is putting another oil counter.
It's putting one. It still only puts the 1.
But that's halfway to the next one, is my point.
Yes, yeah.
And I think you're just going to get that over time. Every deck I have has, usually 5 spells or so. And like I said, it's just a 2-drop that is unblockable with 2 power. This just seems great.
I think the card is good. I don't think it's anywhere close to a 4.
I'm giving it a 4. I think this card is fantastic.
I think I've got it as a 3.
Wow. It's a pretty big difference there. This is our second probably biggest difference.
Second or third.
There was another one that we were like pretty far on rating.
And Jace.
Oh yeah, Jace. Yeah. All right, mesmerizing dose. Sure. Yep. 3 mana for an aura. When it enters the battlefield, tap enchant creature, then proliferate. Tap enchant creature. Yeah. Doesn't untap because controls untap step. Okay. So it's our basic lockdown spell with a proliferate bonus?
Yep.
That seems pretty good. This is blues 4 for sure. I like this.
Yeah. It's their premium removal.
Yeah, I really like removing things and then proliferating. That sounds fantastic. Oh yeah, that makes our thing better too. We only need 1 more oil counter.
All this work and then it's just gonna get shattered.
It's gonna be amazing, Yanks. That card is gonna kill you so much. Mind Splice. We've got a 4 mana artifact with flash at the beginning of your upkeep. Put an oil counter on it. Instant and sorceries you cast cost 1 less for each oil counter. No, thank you.
Yeah, nope.
I'm gonna give this a 1.
Yep, easy. Doesn't really do anything.
Minor misstep. 1 mana. Counter target spell with mana value 1 or less. No, thank you.
Nope, this is an eternal format kind of plant, and even then, I don't think it's good enough. But
that's a 1.
Yep.
All right, we have the prologue to Phyrexia. 2 mana. Each opponent gets a poison counter. Draw a card. I mean, there's like spells decks that's going to want this, right? Because there are some spells matter cards. So this is a 2 mana cycle that also gives your opponent a counter for corrupt and for your proliferate triggers. Like you are going to be just kind of putting your opponent on a clock here. I think this is playable, but in a very specific deck.
Yeah, I think this generally is just one of those that you can live with playing always because it cycles. But I'm going to be trying to cut this card, I think.
Yeah. I think there's exactly one deck that wants this. I'm going to give it a 1.5.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
All right, Quicksilver Fisher. We have 5 mana for a Phyrexian Drake, 4/3 with flying. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card, then discard a card. I'm okay with this. That's a big beater for 5 mana. Yeah, this card is fine for a common, certainly.
Yeah, a little filtering, a little pricey for the rate, but not out of reasonable territory. And with the filtering, it's pretty nice. I like this card. It's nothing special, but happy to put it in my deck.
Absolutely. Rating wise, what are you thinking?
Like a 2/5.
I agree. I haven't seen a bunch of chunky 5 drops yet, so I think that there's a good spot for this.
Yeah.
Reject Imperfection, 3 mana, counter target spell if that spell has 3 mana, or if the spell's mana value was 3 or less, then you can proliferate. I swear I can say things right. I like that. It's a cancel with some upside. If you want to proliferate, you can actively try to seek out a smaller card, or you can just, wait and see and do whatever spell you like, and maybe the proliferate will be relevant and maybe it won't, but I think this is an okay card with some good upside.
Yeah, it's nice design because it kind of flattens out the variance curve on how good the card is, because you're happy if you get to counter a big thing. Get to counter something like 4 or 5 mana, it's fine. You've traded up on mana, and if you have to counter something less, which will sometimes feel bad, maybe you get a bonus from the proliferating.
Yeah, I agree with that. So I'm fine with this card. I think this is I usually have cancels at a 2. I like them better in sealed, but because of the proliferate, there's going to be a lot of decks that I want to be doing that as much as possible. This is probably a 2/5. I'll run a 1 of.
Yeah, I think 2/5 is fine. It's in that nebulous 2 to 2/5 range.
All right. Serum Snare. 2 mana for an instant, return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. If that permanent had mana value 3 or less, proliferate. I like this again. A instant speed bounce for 2 that you get a bonus if it's 3 CMC or less. I've definitely run bounce spells for 2 mana all the time.
Yep, in this set. Yep, in this set it also has kind of the bonus sometimes, I guess drawback sometimes, of resetting some permanents counters.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes that's a good thing. Like there are some things that come with X and you're whittling them down and you want to restart it. Other times you've built something up, or the opponent's built something up and now you get to bounce it.
Yeah.
And make them start over. So that's nice.
What do you think rating wise?
I think this is like a 2/5. If we give cancel a 2/5, I'll give this a 2/5.
Yep, I agree. I like it at 2/5. Tamiyo's Immobilizer, 4 mana for an artifact, enters the battlefield with 4 oil counters on it. You can remove an oil counter from it. Tap target artifact or creature. Boo! I'm not really interested in that.
Yeah, unless I'm seeing something that cares about different number of different things that have oil counters on it. I probably don't want this. And even then, it's I guess.
If my deck has a ton of just incidental proliferating, and I think I can proliferate this forever. 4 mana for then a tap a creature forever kind of thing. It's kind of like an IC manipulator in that way. Okay, maybe, but I've got to really know I can keep the counters on this. So I'm going to give it a 1.5. One deck will want it.
Yep, agreed.
Tamiyo's Logbook. 3 mana for an artifact. Pay 5, draw a card. This ability costs 1 less to activate for each artifact you control. Sign me up. Even in a mediocre artifact deck, this will be great.
What do you need this to cost?
I need this to activate for once it gets to 3, I feel like it's solid. In the late game?
Yeah, so if it's costing you 3 mana, you probably reasonably need to activate it 3 times to get value. Because at 1, you've just replaced itself for 6. 2, you've drawn a card for 9, but then you get to keep going. And hopefully drawing cards will get you more artifacts.
The other thing, too, is it itself is an artifact to sort of enable that entire deck.
It's each other. Oh, well, for the rest of the deck.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, it's also just a cog in the wheel that does all of the artifact things and continues to fuel itself. I'm not saying that this is a home run by any means, but I can see running this in any deck that cares about artifacts.
Yeah, again, this is kind of, to say the same thing I said with the Divination variant, is that you want to be playing these type of cards in decks that have a decent amount of 2-drops to get on the board.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, I don't even look at this as a 3-drop, to be honest. So when you say that you're talking about playing it on 3, I'm honestly just going to hold this until it's going to be one of the last cards I play in my hand, usually. I'm going to go 2-drop, 3-drop, 4-drop, and I'll just forget this card is in my hand until turn 7 or 8.
Oh yeah, I don't ever want to be playing this on 3. I'm thinking when you start filling your 3 mana slot with cards that don't affect the board, you have to make sure you can get on the board, because sometimes you're just going to draw a hand that has these. as your low-cost spells.
Usually when I'm working on my curve for a deck, I don't even consider this to be a 3-drop.
Yep.
Like, this is just in sort of wandering card. Like, I will remove all of these types of cards from my curve to see what that looks like, and I don't say that this is a 3-drop card in my 3-drop slot. I'm going to cut other 3-drops to sort of like smooth that. I don't consider this in that equation at all. So I think it's a split rating. It's going to be a 1 in 80-90% of decks, and then there is a deck where I think this is a solid 3.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, Tekuthal?
Tekathal, maybe? I don't know.
Tekuthal. Inquiry Dominus. 4 mana for a 3/5 flyer. If you would proliferate twice instead, yes, please. And then you can do the things, make it indestructible by remove 3 counters from among other artifacts, creatures, and planeswalkers you control. So that's a little bit of a difficult thing to ensure that you can do, but regardless, it's a 3/5 flyer for 4 mana that allows you to double proliferate. This card's fantastic.
Does the name of this card sound like something that might have been chanted in, like, Monty Python?
Maybe.
Inquiry Dominus.
Yes.
The interesting thing in this card is the way that the abilities actually synergize, right? Because in multiple ways, you're proliferating several times to get more counters, to be able to remove, to get the indestructible counter. And if you can get a proliferate trigger with 1 indestructible counter on this, then you probably don't have to do it ever again, even if you have other ways, or you're just generating more counters on itself to pay costs.
Yeah. And this is, I don't put that much stock into the like indestructible bits on a lot of these because the activations are quite hard, but I just think this is a fine creature on its own. I think this is a 4 in any deck. If you have high proliferate triggers, then this is going to go way up in value.
Agreed. Yeah, I think it's at least a 4, and it can be higher.
All right, a Thrumming Bird. This is a reprint, right?
It's back, yep.
2 mana for a Phyrexian bird horror with flying. When it deals combat damage to a player, proliferate. Yay! Oh man, this is going to be so freaking annoying. God, I hate this card already. I mean, this is fine. Any deck is going to want free proliferates every turn. Absolutely. Great card. This is 3/5.
I think I've got it as a 3 because it's still in certain decks. This is just low impact. Not bad, but low impact.
It's true. With no +1/+1 counters officially in the set too, it's a little hard to get some stuff. But I'm sticking high. I think this is 3/5. I think that card's fantastic.
I'm starting to really hope that red or black or both have some sort of 1 damage to everything or -1/-1 effect to the board with all the annoying X1s.
Transplant Theorist, 4 mana for a 2/4 Phyrexian Artificer. It's an artifact. Whenever it or another artifact enters the battlefield under your control, you can draw a card. If you do discard, you can tap 2. Put target card from your graveyard onto the bottom of your library. Prevents you from milling, which is cool.
Yeah. Good. Now I'm not letting you mill me out.
That's true. We've seen things like this in some sets where, you had an ability to put something at the bottom, which is cool. There are sometimes decks, even in Limited, where you just have 2 of these and you cycle through your deck and you just like mill them out, which is pretty neat. Sometimes you see some cool stuff like that, but I think this is fine. It's a fine filler. It's an artifact. There's going to be some synergies there. I don't know if there's shuffle mechanics that will make this nice for like getting to shuffle in all your best stuff, but I think this is like a 2.
Yeah, I think it's a 2. It's going to be pretty good in that artifact deck because you get a lot of looting. But yeah, in general, it's a 2.
Trawler Drake, it's a 5 out of 5. This is my preview card. Let's go. This little tiny soon-to-be Windrake. It's a 3 mana Phyrexian Drake. Enters the battlefield with an oil counter. Whenever it gets a +1/+1 for each oil counter, whenever you cast a non-creature spell. So this is artifacts, enchantments, instants and sorceries, and proliferate abilities. You're going to get double triggers, which is sweet, because most of your proliferate stuff is going to be attached to a non-creature spell. So then it'll do the thing, and then it'll proliferate and do it again, which is cool. This is going to get very out of hand very quickly. I think this is like a 3/5 for me.
And then I'm going to pay 2 mana and bounce it, and it's going to come back as a 1/1.
Yeah, and then it's going to eventually get really big again, because my throwing bird's going to punch you in the face.
Yeah, and then my Transplant Theorist has put my bounce spell back in the bottom of my library. I've shuffled it and drawn it again.
Well, whatever. You already say that you don't like this format, so you're not going to play anyway, Yanks. What do you like it at? I like it at realistically like a 3, but in some decks it would be very good.
Yeah, I think it's. Yeah, I think it's more of a 3, and
but it gets a half a point bump for my preview card.
Fair.
Thank you, Wizards of the Coast. # free preview. I will let you take this one.
Unctus Grand Metatect, which I assume is a Facebook metaverse version of an architect. I don't know. It's a 3 mana 2/4 legendary artifact creature. It has other blue creatures you control have, whenever this creature becomes tapped, draw a card, then discard a card. Other artifact creatures you control get +1/+1. And you can pay a Phyrexian blue. Until end of turn, target creature you control becomes a blue artifact in addition to its other colors and types. Activate only as a sorcery. So pump all your artifacts.
It's a 3 mana 2/3 with Toxic.
Nope. Oh. I see what happened here. You have them in a different order than the wizard site.
Oh. What?
This happens every time that there's something with an apostrophe S, and then the one before it, the other one is the name.
Oh, which one are you doing?
That one.
Oh.
Because the wizard site.
And they both say Unctus, so I just didn't listen to the rest of what you said.
Yeah, anytime there's apostrophe S afterwards, they've ended up in a different order. Oops. Okay, well, let's do this one first, and then we'll go back to the other one. Oops. Yeah. So 3 mana 2/4.
Sorry, yeah, I spaced. I will do this one because I was looking at the other one. 3 mana 2/3 Phyrexian Vidalkin. That's a thing. Other blue creatures you control have, whenever this creature becomes tapped, draw a card, then discard. Other artifacts get +1/+1. It's a lord, and you could do a thing, and target creature becomes a blue artifact in addition to its other types. Great. Yeah, this seems good. There's a lot of artifacts. Even if you're not in the artifact deck, blue just has enough artifacts plus mites. So great. I'm in.
Yeah, and every blue creature that you have has the loot ability.
Yep.
Except this.
I don't like that it's not a mace. Whenever this creature becomes tapped, you just like mill yourself out. That's kind of gross.
You could play, if you have the mill deck, you could play that Tamiyo's, or not, Tamiyo's? Immobilizer, and tap your opponent's things to mill them.
Yeah. Kind of gross, but I guess it's fine. Yeah, I'm okay with this. Let's go ahead and rate this. What are you thinking? I'm thinking like a 4.
Yeah, I think it's a 4. It's super powerful. And there's going to be enough, either artifacts or blue or both, or you have enough mana and life to spend to make them those things. So
great. Now we have the Unctus's Retrofitter, 3 mana for a 2/3 with Toxic. When it enters the battlefield, up to 1 target artifact you control, or an artifact becomes an artifact creature with base power 4/4, and as long as this remains on the battlefield. So that's cool. This seems great.
Yeah. Any artifacts, so it doesn't have to be something that's already a creature, so you just gotta... Maybe you can turn that mill card into something that actually does something for a little while.
Oh my god, Yanks. Even still, it's a 2/3 with Toxic for 3 mana, so it's fine. Even if you miss and you have to play it early on curve, great. You're doing the things. This is probably like a 2/5?
Yeah, I like it at 2/5. If you have enough kind of like just sort of bonus artifacts floating around. Now, we haven't seen any like treasure or clues or anything yet. But if you have anything like that you can just turn into a 4/4, it gets better.
Okay. It's probably also like plays down if you don't have things like mites and stuff to turn into things. If it's just a vanilla thing with toxic, it's probably closer to a 2.
Yeah, it does actually, I just thought, work really well with that 2-mana 1/1 flying vigilance artifact creature. Because it makes it a 4/4 flying vigilance on turn 3.
Yeah. Vivisurgeon's Insight. 5 mana for a sorcery. Draw 3 cards, then proliferate. Yeah, I like drawing 3 cards. This card's fine. It's a little pricey for my draws, but stapling a proliferate on it seems fantastic. I'm definitely playing one of these.
Yeah, 5 mana sorcery, draw 3. They're always playable, but they're not exciting. Proliferate certainly makes it better, but I've still got this like right around a 2. Maybe it moves up to a 2/5 if the format's slow enough.
Yep, I agree. A cuttable thing, especially if you have better draw. But the second your deck wants proliferate actively, then I'm happy to play this. So
yeah.
All right, we have a Watchful Blisterzoa.
Yeah.
We have a 6 mana 4/4 flyer. When it enters the battlefield with an oil counter on it, when it dies, draw a card equal to the number of oil counters on it. Boom! Proliferate, please and thank you. At the very least, it's going to be drawing a card. That's cool. This card's fantastic. It's also a jellyfish. Dope.
Yeah, 6 mana 4/4 flyer that pretty much at worst replaces itself. Yeah, and you're late in the game. You've got a lot of mana that probably have used some of their removal. There's a decent chance you could find at least one proliferate trigger.
I think this is a 3 in a deck with no synergy.
Yeah, agreed.
Hey, we finished the blue at 1 hour and 1 minute. Good job, Yanks. We cut it down by 20 minutes from white.
Nice. Even with us reading different cards.
Yes. Overall, what do you think of blue?
It's interesting. Blue, maybe just because we've seen white already. Like, I feel like the artifact synergy seems pretty heavily supported, and proliferate does. Not for like Simic. Not sure yet about blue black and blue red. We haven't seen those, but what they're supposed to be doing, I'm not sure we saw a ton of support for.
Yeah, I saw a lot of support for it. It's just we're gonna have to wait till we get to the multicolor to see if that is worth it, right? Because we've seen a lot of things like that where there is a ton of support and it's just like not worth doing anyway.
Yeah, you don't find, you've got enablers, but you don't find the payoffs or.
Yeah, and if the payoffs are just like one uncommon, then it's not really worth trying to get into the business of artifacts unless you start with that, which is always kind of scary. So,
agreed.
Jury's out on that. We'll see how we like that in the next color. For those of you guys on the YouTube channel, make sure you guys check out the comment section below. Let us know what you guys think of the set so far, white and blue, and the introduction is already up. We'd love to hear your thoughts, and we will see you guys in the next video. Bye.